I'm very curious to ask you. Thank you. Now I'm online.
Bye, guys.
And a very good evening and welcome to Berani Bersama Conversations with myself, Rashid, Salleh. Welcome to the show. For those of you for the first time coming into our Facebook page, Berani Bersama is a campaign where we work hand in hand with celebrities and experts who have volunteered to share their knowledge, skills and performances via social media to raise funds for MERCY Malaysia. Now, for those of you who'd like to Berani Bersama, please do like our Facebook page where we go live. Choose a variety of streams and videos of your interest. Go to our Launch Good page, www.launchgood.com/Berani Bersama MY. Pledge and make a donation towards the MERCY Malaysia's COVID-19 Pandemic Fund. Now, of course, all funds are directed directly into MERCY Malaysia via the Launch Good platform. We do not authorize any individuals to collect donations on our or MERCY Malaysia's behalf. Now, we've got a really interesting conversations today on at 6 p.m. with some very interesting characters and guests. So I'm going to get them on. A couple of them are from the Geek Pop Culture panel. So we're going to have bring Richard Vulcan Chua, or Mr. Spock, we'd like to call him sometimes. Hi there, and how are you?
Peace and long life, live long and prosper.
Thank you.
I'm beaming in from Hobbiton.
Right. Okay.
And
we've got and we have his partners Sanjiv Indran. Hi Sanjiv, how are you?
Hello there. All good, all well. Jedi Master just finished saving the galaxy and he's come back to apparently a white clean room for some reason.
Thank you. And a white shirt as well at the same time.
White shirt, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, indeed.
And of course joining us.
It's a Mandalorian shirt though, so good to be
okay. All right, big fan. Right. Now, and of course joining us, he himself is also a collector. So please welcome Sanjay Naidu. Hi, Jay.
Hey, how's it going, Rashid? Yeah, fine. I'm good.
Right, great. Of course, this is probably the most interesting out of the whole Berani Bersama conversations I've had in since I started this, because it's, you're not performers in that sense, singers, and you're not musicians. So, and we're going to be talking about stuff that I think a lot of people grew up with. I mean, I grew up with Star Wars and Star Trek and quite a few other things in the late 70s and early 80s. I was a big Star Wars fan. I still am, but I do enjoy Star Trek as well. Now, obviously, we talked backstage earlier about this animosity between Star Trek fans. Oh, okay, firstly, just to clear things up, Richard, are they Trekkers or Trekkies?
Most real fans would prefer to be called themselves Trekkers. Trekkies, it's a bit more fun, generic, poke fun, fanboy, fangirl sort of term. Not 100% respectable, but...
All right, you're cool with that. Okay. Sanjiv, as I said just now, there's been a lot of animosity between Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans. Now, which one are you, and what's your take on the other?
Right. As a person, I usually don't like to go down, and be defined by labels. For those who know me, but if I were to choose, between Star Wars and Star Trek, I think they both have their own, fields of influence, so to speak, right? And I find myself more of a fantasy person, more so than just the science fiction that Star Trek offers. So I were to choose, it's Star Wars for sure. But that doesn't mean that Star Trek is a bad thing in any sort of the way. And I'm a Trekkie. So sorry, Richard. I know you go by Trekker, but I guess I'm a fake Trekkie then. So this is where the war begins, right here.
You're going to start a war right now, aren't you? Jay, I understand you're a collector of sorts. What kind of collection do you have, and when did you start this collection or this interest in collecting?
yeah, I started around 7 to 8 years ago, and currently I have like 30, 30 odd statues.
Mhm.
And basically, my statues are quarter scale, and
Right.
it's collectibles and it's exclusive. So yeah, I mean, I collect something that would have value in the future. So the market will rise on the price of the statue itself. Yeah.
Mm.
So certain brands like Sideshow Collectibles, XM Studio, Prime Ones,
Mm.
and these are all like four figures and above. The range of
Right.
the statue. Yeah, it's quite huge statues. Yeah.
Why? How did you start collecting it? Why? And what was the interest in doing? Apart from the value itself, I mean, was it just
Yeah,
something that it was started as a hobby, or?
yeah. It started as a hobby, and then at first when I move into my house, I want something to decorate my house. So I don't want anything something like generic, like a vase or whatever it is, you know. So I end up looking at the stuff that I know, which is the pop culture, and I mean they're beautiful to look at, and then they have values in it, you know. So
Right.
everybody
Right.
can relate to it when you see the statue in real life. Yeah, started like that.
Now, Richard, when did your interest first start with Star Trek?
I would say it's probably in the early 80s when Star Trek was being broadcast in Malaysia, and this being the original Star Trek series with
Mm.
Captain Kirk and Spock, starring William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
I guess we had colored TV at that time. Was a tad too young to fully understand and appreciate all the storyline and the underlying messages, but you know, it was cool watching people jump on spaceships, beam here and there, shoot each other with ray guns when it happened, and therefore that affair went on to Star Trek: The Next Generation, which launched in 1986, and I think it was quite a big affair on TV3 as well. I remember some actors dressing up in that horrible uniform, not looking too good, but you know, they tried pushing the show and it was on air for quite a few years.
I see. Ray Hayashi Chua says, "Sounds super sharp and clear from Hobbiton." There we go.
Because my communicator is tuned to the right frequency.
Okay. Now, quickly, Richard, before we go delve into some other things, are you a fan of us of the new series right now, Picard?
It's interesting how the new series have actually caused quite a stir of controversy among the old fan base. This since the launch of Star Trek Discovery 3 years ago, and most recently by Star Trek Picard, which is not quite a vision that we think the original creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, would approve. I mean, the original vision was of an optimistic future, and what's being depicted now in the latest Star Trek Picard is not so far. It's maybe even further from utopia, as we hope we can progress as a race. But it is Jean-Luc Picard, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, well, retired Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, and I think as a mainstay of the character, it's not that they have maybe done him injustice. He is still played wonderfully by Patrick Stewart, and the tone has shifted. We will still watch it as Trekkers and the
All right.
Trekkies.
Okay, Sanjiv, let's go Star Wars. Obviously, we've had quite three films that came out just recently, including the other ones with
Five.
well, yeah, including the other ones.
The Disney era shows.
Yes, with Rogue and the Sword. The Mandalorian then came out as a TV series, and of course Disney Plus is coming out with a whole load of TV series around the Star Wars universe. For you as a fan, watching it, obviously watching the originals, and then those three in the middle, which I'd personally like to forget about. But how do you think has this world progressed as a Star Wars fan over the years?
Right. So I think things changed with the times as well, and you can also see
Yes.
this with the generations of fans that have come in, right? Of where perhaps some of the older generation are a bit more vocal of what the current Star Wars has to give, at least the new series or the new episodes. However, having like being part of the Star Wars fan club, for example, and seeing the thousands who join us, and especially the hundreds of kids who turn out to be members, for them, it's all about either the prequels or the sequels. They don't really hold the original trilogy as in high regards or as high standards as how the older folk or the older generation do. And so I think that's one of the beautiful things about what Star Wars does, is because it gives something to everybody, irrespective of what exactly you like. If you like, again, the Mandalorians, and you don't like the Jedi so much, you have that story for you. If you like the clones and the clone troopers, that's the awesome Clone Wars that just finished. Season 7 came out not too long ago. And then, if you like that time age-old story, the hero's journey, then you can follow either Anakin Skywalker's arc, where he becomes Darth Vader, or you could follow even his son's arc, Luke Skywalker. So I think, just having been there since the get-go, I mean, like Richard was saying, I'm not so much a child of the 80s, I'm more a child of the 90s, right? And growing up with Star Wars on TV, so to me, like the original trilogy is what I actually watched, and the special editions as well. And it's at the same time that I got into into a close relationship with Star Trek as well, because the Next Generation was going on at the same time on TV too, right? And so seeing what it was, as what Richard was saying, that there was a lot more like a utopian view of the thing and of the Force as well. The 90s was a very different time. And then the prequel came with, the politics of the situation of that era of the Iraq War as well. Then sequels, our current present. And so I think the story has evolved in the time that it has been in as well.
Okay, that's interesting to a different point of view from yours. Now, Jay, obviously I'm going to have to ask you, which one do you favor more, Trek or War?
I have a lightsaber. I have a lightsaber here, right?
Yeah. Just keep it to yourself. Keep the lightsaber, anyway. Yeah.
Some fond memories for series. Star Wars is one of the first movies that I watched in the cinema, right? And for Star Trek, I mean, the Next Generation, my favorite character is Patrick Stewart, with Jean-Luc Picard, who I think is the best captain ever. I mean, in Star Trek series. So both have some fond memories in it, and but I don't feel that it's the same kind of concept. Both are kind of different in a way, because you're comparing series and movies, and both are, I mean, they are, I mean, they're good at their own, series and whatnot.
Okay. Right. Richard Sanjiv, you are part of this Geek pop culture panel. Tell us a bit about that. Tell us a bit about that. I'll start with Mr. Spock first, because he looks a little bit more authoritative. So let me just so tell us a bit about that, and what kind of things that you guys do, Richard.
Well, geek pop culture pretty much follows all the interests that formerly may have been considered sort of like geeky or related to nerds, in the love of comic books, sci-fi, fantasy readings, and such. So in the recent years, with some of the success of mainstream blockbuster movies and media, such as like the Avengers, Star Wars, it's actually, being a geek has become more fashionable. So this could also be seen in many geek conventions which are spawned around the world.
Like Comic-Con, and for example.
The original San Diego Comic-Con, SDCC, that's basically geek mecca for the world, with 140,000 geeks coming up, meeting every year in July. Except for this year, they have to cancel the event until next year due to COVID-19. But the multitude of these events have spawned up, and especially in the US or even some European countries, attendance is like, running in the realms of 100,000 or more. So it's a sizable population, and that has also, I believe, translated over to Malaysia, whereas it's not uncool to be a geek now and show your love for your particular franchises, wearing say Marvel apparel or taking comic books around and cosplaying like this. Okay, showing your love for your characters.
Well, we had a guest earlier in the show, the hour prior to this, Venus, and she did comment about your costume, and she was quite impressed. She said, "Cookies for Richard for the full dress up. Shove cookies."
Oh, thank you very much. Credit also goes to her. She's done some of my cosplay costumes, and that's credit goes to her for what how good I could look.
Oh, okay. Except for the haircut, the MCO haircut, because
Spock
usually has a slightly more well groomed front.
Agreed.
Forehead.
You can only do so much with a pair of scissors.
Exactly. Now, Sanjiv, you did mention about the charitable causes that you guys and the Rebel Legion does as well. What is the Rebel Legion and why charity?
Right. So the Rebel Legion is actually a costuming society, right? It's an official Star Wars costuming society that was actually set up in the US, which played a counterpoint to another very famous costume society called the 501st Legion. So they were set up to do costumes, especially the Imperial Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, the Imperial costumes. And the Rebel Legion was then set up to do the Rebel costumes. So everyone from the Jedi to the pilots, right? And the outlet that gave was for fans who, wanted to express or wear their fandom literally on their sleeves, to not just dress up, but also have a charity component. So to actually partner and team up with, other causes to fundraise for them. You can imagine, right? Being in a hospital as a kid as well. And, you're all alone and you just wanted some degree of cheer, getting cheered up. And now you have these costumed characters, people from the universe that you love, come in and, entertain you for that period of time. It just makes their day. And so I think that's how the original prime directive, as we'd say in Star Trek as well, began for these costumed societies. Right? Then we took that one step forward as well in Malaysia, because aside from just having costumers and fans who dress up, we also have a whole range of people who might not have the costumes, who might just be, general collectors, and, that's like Sanjay as well. And you also have people who are readers, who just love the films for film's sake, but they want to contribute and give back. And so the Star Wars Malaysia Fan Club also exists in that capacity to basically outreach, to have that reaching out to the folks that need it and help where we can. Just do our small part.
Oh, well, that's very noble of you guys. Especially, I was surprised it was the Rebel Legion, not the Empire. The Empire.
The 501st do good as well. Yeah, no, they do good too. I mean, the 501st. I mean, it's the whole motto is bad guys doing good, and credit to them too, for sure.
Okay. All right, Jay. I did ask you about just now, being a trekker and Star Wars, and
all depends on that.
Yeah. It all depends on that. In terms of your collection, which ones do you really treasure the most, and why?
I think Star Wars is one of it, right? So it's quite rare. I mean, the collection is very sought after, and after that would be my Marvel collections as well. To tell you the truth, I do not have any collections from Star Trek. Yeah.
Oh. How do you feel about that, Richard?
Well, I have to admit that Star Wars wins in the merchandising battle. So many more collectibles available in the realm of Star Wars than Star Trek. I mean, every vehicle, alien, and the movies is basically a product advertisement for a new collectible or toy. We can't beat that. We just look like humans in uniform.
With big ears.
With big ears. Elf ears.
Sharp ears, elf ears, yeah.
Elf ears.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because I actually grew up. Reading fantasy fiction, and when I was younger, I actually started with The Hobbit, many moons ago,
Okay.
and I grew up watching. I remember even reading George R. R. Martin saying this would be a really good film or TV series, and 10 years on, obviously the TV series came out, Game of Thrones. And but I used to do, I don't know whether you remember this, Richard. There was another a science fiction TV series called Space 1999.
Yes, actually, it was still a bit before my time. I think that came out.
Yeah, now you really make me feel old. Because I do remember, and you're not that much younger than I am. But I remember that because it was one, to me, one of the first TV series that I saw. Because, it was an aircraft that looked like a beetle. And anyway, you'll see, and I used to, that was the first thing I bought and collected and kept for a long time. Yeah.
But the 90s had some good shows, to be fair, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. I never said the 90s didn't have. The 90s got even better for me.
Yeah.
I mean, even after that, watching Ninja Turtles, blah blah blah, and moving along with that as well. But you had some really cool stuff in the 80s and the 90s. I think science fiction and generally geek pop culture really, the magazines that came out with that. I think the writer Timothy Zahn, who did Star Wars, I read a lot of his books as well. And even though I was stuck to fantasy, but I enjoyed the science fantasy as well. But again, that's geeking out on books. But you guys, in terms of your, you've now seen the rise of the Marvel cinematic world, or rather Marvel. Has that sort of threatened the guys who watch Star Wars and Star Trek? Are there a lot more fans now in that Marvel world, or is everyone, is it a mixing? Richard?
Well, we go by pure numbers. I think the box office for Avengers Endgame exceeding 2 billion worldwide, there's probably a lot more people watching that than Star Wars and Star Trek combined. So I would like to attribute this is probably the time of comic book superheroes being the in thing for mass media consumption. And that sort of has been the last decade. This last decade has been that of superheroes. If we actually jump back, I think about 2 decades ago, it's actually, I think, around time of the late 90s or early 2000s. Sci-fi was the big thing in movie and TV media. There were actually quite a number of different TV series. There were 3 Star Trek series on at that time.
Yes, that's right. I'm actually looking forward to seeing. Because Sanjiv, there were already talks about the new Obi-Wan Kenobi's TV series.
That's right.
I actually subscribed to Disney Plus, but I'm still waiting for it to come out now. Because of Disney, I used to work with ESPN, which was a Walt Disney company anyway. I didn't realize I used to work for Mickey Mouse, but
being a big empire, they own everything now, right?
I know. Big Ears owns everything. But I am really looking forward for this Star Wars universe to really come out and play, because I wasn't very sure about The Mandalorian until I saw it. Then I was blown away by just this. They're now creating a whole new world outside. I mean, I followed you. I was like you. I watched. I haven't finished the Clone Wars yet, the latest series. But how are you? How excited are you to see, and what do you want to see in the Disney Star Wars universe after this?
Right.
And what's your personally?
Definitely. I mean, so my personal favorite character in I think the entire Star Wars saga would actually be Obi-Wan as well. I mean, I just like the character of how flawed he is, and he tries to do right, and he always tells things from a certain point of view.
Yes.
Kind of like,
okay, all right. From a certain point of view. Yeah. Sorry, I had to repeat.
However, no, definitely, it's a fantastic quote, and this is the thing about what I think Disney has done as well. Coming back to that, like having something to appeal to all different generations, right? So so where the sequels can again reach out to the kids, all the kids who dream about being Kylo as opposed to being Darth Vader. At the same time, you have them bringing us, like the old fans, back into the picture with things like Obi-Wan and also The Mandalorian, right? And now they just said they were casting Tamara Morrison, who played Jango Fett and Boba Fett in the prequels, to come back as Boba Fett in here. You know, spoiler alert, but this is kind of news that's been revealed. And furthermore, there are some fans who were even like big fans of stuff like Rogue One. So they're even having a Cassian Andor series.
Yes.
You know, so I think that's the whole thing. It's like there's a mass generational appeal. And to address your question earlier, I think Richard had brought up about you know, where are the fans at the moment in terms of pop culture? Definitely, there's a larger you know, fan base with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I think it's just more appealing. It's like so many characters, so many comic book heroes, so many different titles, right? Captain Marvel is its own thing, and Captain America is its own thing. But where then Star Wars and Star Trek are unique is in the sense that they're still just one item. I mean, Star Trek is still Star Trek, Star Wars is still Star Wars. And so if you go by that, I think the passion that Star Wars have for their franchise, and the passion that the Trekkies or Trekkers have for their franchise, probably is a bit higher because they've been there longer. I mean, we've had 40 years, 50 years of this fandom. MCU is a little bit new, right? It's just with Iron Man in 2008.
Exactly. And King Yung saying Sanjiv can be Batman.
Okay.
And there we go. All right. And of course, you're a real Star Wars fan if you watch the Ewoks as well, the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My favorite, Caravan of Courage, Battle for Endor. I've just Battle for Endor, but I like the Star Wars Holiday Special from 1978 too. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
First time,
It's like, you know, if you've ever watched Lord of the Rings, the rotoscope version, that's really cool. I love that. I mean, that's one of the first things I used to watch. I guess a lot of people are now finding out I'm actually a fantasy fiction enthusiast. Okay, right. That's why I said I was quite excited about this show, because just wanted to find out other people's opinions about this. Now, Jay, you talked about the Marvel collectibles. Is that something that you prefer right now, or do you think there's something that's going to be quite different you're going to be collecting as we move along? Because Disney is coming out with a lot more stuff now, and you could find some really valuable collectibles.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Mandalorian. It's just one of the best, you know, from the Star Wars universe, and I can't wait for season 2 as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to also I'm looking forward to add up some collection on Marvel. But going back to your conversation just now, Marvel, I think based on the comics itself, they were way much longer from Star Trek or Star Wars. I mean, the first we watched Star Trek was 1968, you know, the William Shatner version, and Star Wars came in 1977, you know. If you go back to let's say Captain America, it was I think it was introduced in the comics in 1939 to 1941, something like that. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's not gonna affect both of these communities, because what you're seeing, the rise of Marvel is actually the comic fans, the base of it. And of course, it's attracting a lot of new viewers and new interest to the Marvel universe. Yep.
Somebody did say, Raymond Cool said, waiting for Witcher season 2. I actually enjoyed that as well. That one and another series. It's just the tip of my tongue. Now, we haven't got that much time left, but Richard, I just want to quickly ask you, amongst all the films that you've watched and TV series in the Star Trek world, which one was your favorite and why?
In the Star Trek series, I actually particularly like Deep Space Nine. There was a series which ran in the 1990s to the year 2000. So it went on for 7 seasons. And unlike the other Star Trek series, it wasn't about starship flying across the galaxy. It was a space station. But, you know, the space station attracted a lot of interaction with other races through politics, exploration into another quadrant through the wormhole, and even romance. And this was told in in the format of a space opera. I mean, versus Star Trek: The Next Generation, and to a certain extent Voyager, every episode was pretty much standalone. But Deep Space Nine started an episodic nature, which basically has morphed into what current TV series now is like. Do we get any TV series that nowadays that has standalone episodes? Maybe Black Mirror, but generally everything that comes out now is a series. It's episodic.
Right. Yeah, and it's a continuation. Yeah. So sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, for me, that's Star Trek: Deep Space Nine stands out for me.
Okay, great. Anson Benedict Raymond said, looking forward to host all of you guys again at TGV Cinema soon.
We'll be back soon. See you in July.
I'll be back. But Sanjiv, Star Wars, your all-time favorite and why?
Right. So I would say that of all those the shows that have come out thus far, I would say Revenge of the Sith, personally, for just what it meant to me as well. Like, growing up, I wanted to know what Darth Vader's story was going to be about. And so the prequels probably didn't quite cut it, but Revenge of the Sith definitely did. And then if you're looking at the original trilogy, I would say Return of the Jedi, because that's the show that I watched hundreds and hundreds of times. It was the Millennium Falcon in Return of the Jedi that made me, become what I wanted to be in life, which is an engineer. So shout out to
not the Ewoks.
Not the Ewok.
Not Wicket.
Job too.
Specifically, not Wicket of the
Wicket
Ewoks.
W. Warwick. No, not that guy. Chief Chirpa was better.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. Jay, which one?
Yeah.
Star Trek or Star Wars, and which one?
Star Wars favorite, Empire Strike Back. That's the best. And for Star Trek, anything with Jean-Luc Picard in it, I'm good to go. That's about it.
Oh, very dark kind of, because Empire Strikes Back was very, for me, very operatic in the way it was shot and directed. But guys, on that note, thank you ever so much for coming on to Berani Bersama conversation. It's been a very interesting and educational conversation, especially for me, because it's very nice to be able to get your point of view, not just from Star Trek or Star Wars, but from a geek, which is now very fashionable apparently. So it doesn't matter to me as long as we can have similar interests. That matters the most. But on behalf of Berani Bersama, once again, thank you guys for joining us, and we hope to be able to see you again. They say in the cinemas very, very soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
May
Rashid.
the force be with you. Live long and prosper.
Okay,
That
bye.
is the way. Right?
Bye.
I'm very curious to ask you. Thank you. Now I'm online.
Bye, guys.